Hello everybody and welcome back to Tyrion Cuthbert, Attorney of the Arcane. Last time we went to an event, I think it was supposed to be Steelwind, Arya and the Astor's wedding, but somebody killed Garrick Pierce from the first case of this game, Lloyd Von Sanctus, and Sybil. I forgot her full name. And Arya was arrested for it. So yeah. I arrived back at the Nave, meeting with the necromancer they were talking about. I couldn't stay still. Not after discovering what had happened while I was asleep. But he only reprimanded me, telling me that I wouldn't be any good to anyone if I collapsed from an unseen injury. I couldn't really argue against that. I hate how certain words are always capitalized. It's annoying. Nothing seems to be out of the ordinary, except... What? What's wrong with him? If you would just let me finish. There appears to be a trace of necromancy on you, Mr. Cuthbert. Necromancy? It's probably nothing. Did your assistant cast any spells on you? Oh, right. I used mend wounds on him when I found him unconscious. Oh, I expected as much. But it never hurts to make sure. Nothing seems out of the ordinary. You're quite healthy. Celeste breathed a sigh of relief as she went to sit down at one of the benches near the altar. She took a deep breath, allowing the knots in her shoulders to unravel. She sat there for a while, eyes staring into space, waiting for the feeling to pass. It seems like the only thing that hit you was the sleep spell. Consider yourself lucky. She didn't even think to check you before trying to heal you. I'd expect the bodyguard to keep a more level head. I just narrowed my eyes at him and said nothing. But I guess no one is ever prepared for when these things happen. I definitely wasn't. What are you wearing over your eye, good sir? You should be fine to go about your business, but feel free to speak with me again if you experience anything out of the ordinary. Thank you, I'm Lord Lazaric Asclepius, of House Asclepius. Lazaric Asclepius. Occupation nobleman, age 22, the young head of House Asclepius, a noble house known for their knowledge and studies in necromancy. He seems to be friends with Leaf Freyga. He was wrapped in a large cloak. Every part of him was covered except his face. At first I found him to be a bit too blunt and standoffish, but it seemed to come from a place of caring. When I checked my body for injuries, his hands and eyes moved efficiently, moved efficiently and not carelessly. He looked like someone who was passionate about his work and nothing else. And there are no thanks needed. My apprentice apparently owes you a lot. Apprentice? Wallace Nightgrave. You said he was one of your clients a few months ago. Oh, right. Steelwind did mention that she introduced you to. Speaking of, I'm finding it difficult to believe that she did this. Mage blight isn't exactly a benign condition. When it takes hold of a mage, it doesn't matter what kind of person they are. Violent behavior is almost always a result of the rage-filled delirium it puts them in. It's unfortunate, but mages have to be held responsible when cases like this happen. Unless someone is framing her. Tyrion, I fought her. What? Do you remember back when we heard that weird sound? I went outside to see what was going on. I saw her standing over a bunch of unconscious guards. I tried to ask her what was going on, but she didn't say anything. She just attacked me. She was so cold and emotionless. It almost looked like she was sleepwalking. That's actually pretty strange. What do you mean? When someone is affected by mage blight, they enter a state of extreme psychosis and rage. Psychotic episodes like that raise the affected mage's paranoia to ridiculous levels. That's why these cases almost always end in violence. But from what Celeste said, she wasn't acting psychotic, she was completely emotionless. You might be onto something, Mr. Cuthbert. If what you're saying is true, there has to be more to this. What are you going to do? At the very least, we need to find out what actually happened. But you saw her, right? Commander White, I need you to put me in a holding cell. It needs to be one with an anti-magic field. What? I'm not in control of my actions. We need to go now. She wanted them to arrest her. But something else was happening here. With who died, this felt far too coincidental to be a mere simple accident. I wasn't sure where each of the murders occurred, but the Inquisition could tell me more about what happened. There was also Steelwind, if she really was affected by Mage Blight. She would remember what may have caused it. I stood up. There was work to be done. It was about time I ended my sabbatical. Have I presented it to just her? Celeste. It's my attorney's runestone. Celeste? Oh, sorry, I was just... Your runestone is very nice, Tyrion. Strange. There are still so many unknowns. We should continue looking for more clues. Don't push yourself too hard, okay? I'll be fine. I'll make sure to pace myself. Where do you think we should go next? Celeste? Oh, sorry, did you say something? She was probably still shaken up over what happened. It'd be best to take the lead and let her focus on her job. Oh. I guess we're going to the dungeons. We arrived at the dungeon to speak with Steelwind, but we didn't see her anywhere. The Inquisition and the King's Guard must still be questioning her. Processing her. We should come back later. We arrived at the prayer room. It was now swarming with knights from the Inquisition. I find myself staring at the chalk outline of where Pierce's body once was. Are you okay? Yeah. And now was not the time for an existential crisis. Steelwind's future counted on us figuring out what happened. The Inquisition believes that Steelwind broke into this room, knocked out Pierce and me, and then killed him. But I remembered it clearly. I saw Beatrice before I lost consciousness. There was something else happening here. Celeste also fought Steelwind after Beatrice knocked me out. But she could tell me more about how she was acting. There are 3 stained glass windows. They looked quite nice. There are lanterns hanging around the room. They're still lit. Okay. There's a chalk outline where Pierce's body probably was. It looks like he was sitting against the altar when he died. This blood stain seems to imply that the fatal wound came from his chest. An autopsy report would really be helpful here. I needed to ask Commander for a copy of it. Ask the Commander for a copy of it when the next time I saw him.
Arcane!
Oh. There are traces of conjuration magic all over the room. I must have been left by Beatrice's sleep spell. Oh, right. There's a trace of transmutation here. It's all over the area around his body. Interesting. Did the murderer wound him using a transmutation spell? Let's review what happened. Before Beatrice knocked me out, we heard a commotion outside, and you went to investigate. Can you tell me more about your fight with Steelwind? What was she like? Well, she wasn't her usual self. It's like she was in some kind of daze. I noticed it before she attacked me. Something was wrong with her. She didn't even respond to me when I tried to talk to her. It's like she didn't even recognize me. But from what Lord Asclepius said, she would have been acting more erratically if she was affected by Mage Blight. It's possible that you fought someone disguised as her. I guess that's possible. I've sparred with her before, and this was definitely different. But whoever they were, their magic was still extremely powerful. And several members of the 4 pillar families were assembled here. It could have been one of them. We should speak with Commander White when we get the chance. The Grand Cathedral was closed to the public for whatever was happening here. They probably should have a list of everyone who was present when the murders happened. That meant that whoever did this was one of the nobles who was here today. Beatrice can cast invisibility, so I doubt she'd let you see her. But did you see her at any point when you were fighting Steelwind? Celeste? Sorry, I don't know. I was too focused on staying alive. I've actually been meaning to ask you about that. Aren't you really strong? I've never even seen you break a sweat in a fight before. Well, she was really tough. It was terrifying, honestly. I've sparred with her before, but never with magic. I've never fought someone with spells that powerful before. She didn't hurt you, did she? No, but it got pretty close. I think she realized that she couldn't beat me, so she just ran past me and into the prayer room. So her real target was Pierce. But why? Did you see the moment that she murdered Pierce? No. When I arrived at the prayer room, I saw you and Steelwind unconscious on the ground. Pierce was already dead. And I'm assuming you didn't see Beatrice anywhere. No, she wasn't there when I arrived. How did she leave the prayer room without Celeste noticing? Did she turn herself invisible? Obtained evidence, Celeste's testimony. During the afternoon of the murder, Celeste McCoy heard a suspicious sound and investigated the hallway leading to the prayer room. There she saw Arya Steelwind fighting with the guards. Arya didn't respond to Celeste's questions and attacked her as well. The two fought to a standstill and Arya pushed past her. When Celeste arrived at the prayer room, she found Tyrion and Arya unconscious. And Pierce was already dead, but she didn't see Beatrice Frigga at any point during the altercation. We showed up at the prayer room for the meeting at 1:50 p.m. Then we interrogated Pierce for about half an hour. That's when we heard that commotion outside, and when you went to investigate it. Right. But I think Beatrice knocked me and Pierce out 10 minutes after that. How long did you fight Steelwind before she pushed past you? We definitely fought for a while. It must have been at least 20 minutes. After that, she gave up on fighting me and ran into the prayer room. Which means that Beatrice somehow got into the room during your fight. That discounts my theory for her disguising herself as Steelwind. I regained consciousness at 3:12 p.m. That meant that I was knocked out for more than 40 minutes. There's still a lot of unknowns about what happened. I needed all the pieces if I wanted to set the board. Anyways, it looked like I'd found everything I could here. It was time to move somewhere else. I needed to visit the other crime scenes. Can I go to the dungeons yet? Nope. Oh. Okay. We retraced our footsteps and found the common room. That was the last place I'd seen Von Sanctus and Sybil before everything happened. I looked around. The once pure white room was completely scorched. I could still smell the scent of burnt cloth and flesh in the air. What happened here? Was there some kind of fire? Yeah, we think the bird lit a fire using magic. As we entered the room, Commander White waved us over. He was accompanied by his usual legion of knights. Commander White. Hey, kid. We're investigating what happened, too. We just want to figure out what really happened. You and me both. Nothing about this makes any damned sense. I could honestly really use your help in trying to figure this out. I wasn't sure who I could trust at this point, but like always, the commander was leading the investigation.
Kid, why? I know, it's your attorney's runestone. It proves you're a certified attorney. I caught the last 100 times you waved this thing in my face.
There are scorch marks all over the room. The fire must have spread pretty far.
Yeah, it was probably going for a while. No one even noticed it until Prince Alaric told the King's Guard that he saw smoke.
Interesting. We should speak with him and see if he saw anything else. Even now, the sunlight is shining through the stained glass window. It looks like the fire reached them before it was... It looks like the fire reached them before it was put out. Really? Can't investigate the outline. Not what I meant to press. Oh my god.
Arcanum.
Oh. There's a trace of obturation magic in the center of the room. Do the traces overlap with the body? Kind of. It's sort of square-shaped. Square-shaped? I can't see the traces, but there also seems to be a square-shaped outline around the body. You're right! They overlap perfectly! The area inside the square is a lot less burnt now that I look at it. I'm not sure what this means yet, but it's definitely worth taking note of. Obtained evidence of on Sanctus traces of abjuration. What the fuck is that picture supposed to mean? There are traces of abjuration magic that form a perfect square around the body. The area within the square seems far less burnt too. There are traces of evocation in a bunch of different spots around the room.
We think some oil from the lanterns got knocked over during the massacre. The prep must have lit the fire with the evocation spells, but we don't know if they did it on purpose or accidentally.
Did I say prep? I meant perp.
And the King's Guard used a bunch of water-based evocation spells to put it out before the fire spread.
That makes sense. With that knowledge in mind, there's nothing out of the ordinary here.
This whole situation's a damned mess.
Has the Inquisition found any clues to explain what happened?
We haven't exactly had a lot of time. We've only just received the autopsy reports.
That's still pretty useful. Do you have copies of them?
Sure, knock yourselves out.
Obtained evidence. Autopsy report. Garrick Pierce. Died at 2:45 p.m. in the prayer room. Cause of death was blood loss. A shard of frozen liquid was found stabbed through his heart. It is very likely that this was the murder weapon. The wound also shows heavy traces of transmutation magic, and traces of conjuration magic were found throughout the room. Obtained evidence. Autopsy report. Coraline Sybil. Died at 2:18 p.m. Cause of death was suffocation. Her body was found floating in a nearby lake outside of the Grand Cathedral. Traces of transmutation, evocation, and necromancy were found on the body. Obtained evidence. Autopsy. Lloyd von Sanctus. Died at 2:05 p.m. The cause of death was suffocation. The fire in the common room burnt the body too much to discern any specific wounds he may have suffered. However, a small trace of evocation magic and a burn mark were found on the victim's left shoulder. This implies the body was hit with a fire-based evocation spell. Traces of abjuration magic were found on and around the body. Wait, Pierce was killed with a frozen blade? Isn't that similar to how he killed Flintheart McCoy? Sorry, I didn't mean to. No, it's okay. I couldn't imagine a scenario where a struggle happened and the killer used whatever was nearby. However, it still felt like a convoluted series of events. Obtained evidence of the murder of Garrick Pierce. The Inquisition found a frozen blade impaling Garrick Pierce through his heart. There were traces of transmutation on his blood. This implies that the murderer used shape liquid to create this blade and murdered him, which is oddly similar to how Pierce murdered Flintheart McCoy. But why would the murderer do this when they clearly have more lethal spells at their disposal? Pierce used this method during Flintheart's murder to leave as little evidence as possible. However, it's clear the murderer wanted to frame Arya and leave as much evidence as possible. Anyways, the times of death also tell a story. Purely based on the times of death, the murderer must have killed Von Sanctus, then Sybil, then Pierce, in that order.
Yeah, that's our working theory too.
If we look at this map, we can see where the prayer room and the common room are. Lady Sybil's body was found in the lake west of here. The Grand Cathedral was built on a cliff. There would only be one way for her to reach the lake in such a short amount of time. How did Sybil's body end up in the lake? The murderer threw Sybil from the balcony. The Grand Cathedral was built on a cliff over the lake, and the westward balcony just happens to be right over it.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. We even have a witness who saw a steel one there.
Really? Who was it?
It was High Speaker Theon Arceus.
High Speaker?
He's the shot caller of the Church of Bahamut, and he stands at the top of the religious hierarchy from what I hear. He spotted Steelman near the west balcony and noticed that she was acting suspiciously. He called out to her, but she ignored him.
So she knew that he saw her, but she didn't attack him?
Yeah, this whole Mage Blight story didn't really add up. Either way, we just have to talk to him directly to find out more.
Putting that aside, there's something else that's strange. What's that? It's about the order that the murders occurred in. What's strange about the order of the murders? From the times of death, the murderer must have killed Von Sanctus, Sybil, and Pierce in that order. That means that the murderer went to the common room, then the west balcony, and then finally the prayer room. But if we look at the map, the murderer's route seems a bit strange. Yep, they killed Arceus. Could have.
What if?
There's a clear update thing. The common room, balcony, and the prayer room. Is it Pierce? The murderer must have passed right by the prayer room before they dumped Sybil's body. Why wouldn't they just murder Pierce on the way there?
Maybe they wanted to dump Sybil's body first.
Or they were afraid of fighting me.
Aren't you giving yourself a little too much credit?
No, she has a point. Out of everyone who fought the murderer, Celeste was the only one who didn't die or fall comatose. Anyway, there has to be a reason why the murderer deliberately chose that route. Obtained evidence, the murderer's route. Why is this the picture used? Judging from each time of death, the murderer went from the common room to the balcony, and then to the prayer room, in that order. However, that wasn't the most direct route. There has to be an explanation for that. I'd created a rough outline of the murderer's actions, but the real clues would lie in how each of the individual murders occurred. First, I need to figure out how Von Sanctus was murdered. When did they discover the bodies? Who came across them?
It all started when Prince Alaric ran up to us. He told us that he saw a fire breaking out in the common room. He also saw Steelman there. When he tried to talk to her, she hit him with some kind of spell.
She attacked one of the princes?
Yeah, but it didn't sound like she heard him. Lord Asclepius inspected him, and he told us he wasn't injured.
I'm glad to hear he's okay, but wouldn't Arya have used a more violent spell if she was afflicted with Mage Blight?
It's possible she was throwing spells randomly, and he just happened to get really lucky.
I suppose that's possible, but was there anyone else nearby when this happened? I would have expected a Prince of Wyverngard to be under constant guard.
Yeah, that was kind of my mistake. I ordered the knights to give him some space, considering what just happened.
And that would be...
Sorry, kid, if you don't know, it's not my place to tell you. I have the orders from the top to stay quiet about this.
And I would need to ask someone higher up. It was still strange, though. Why were all these nobles gathered here?
Anyways, whatever the perp hit him with, it only put him in a daze. He could barely walk or talk, but he couldn't even approach us until the spell had worn off. The weirdest thing about it was that he should have been pretty close to where we were. But for some reason, we didn't find him until after the spell wore off.
That must have been traumatic. I hope he's okay. But why didn't anyone see him during this time?
After he told us about what was happening, we went to put out the fires. That's when we saw a bunch of guards knocked out outside the prayer room.
Did you see me?
No, this all happened around 10 p.m.
Right, that was probably well after Steelwind moved into the prayer room. Celeste must have already followed her into it. Obtained evidence. The report. Why is the report fire? The Inquisition discovered something was wrong when Alaric the Wyvern Guard reported that a fire had broken out in the common room. They told them that Arya Steelwind cast a spell on him earlier that severely debilitated his senses. When the Inquisition arrived at the scene, they spotted the unconscious guards outside the prayer room. They did not see Celeste McCoy and Arya Steelwind. This all happened at 3:10 p.m. When you arrested Steelwind, I recall you mentioning that a bunch of guards were comatose. Did the murderer use some kind of spell to knock them out?
They didn't. I'm just as lost as you are about this. Some of the victims didn't have any magical traces on them. We know that they're not under the effects of a spell, but they still haven't woken up.
That's odd too, to say the least. Is there any common thread between the knights who fell comatose that might help us deduce what happened to them?
Well, we found all of them near the common room and the prayer room. All the locations where Steelwind was spotted. That can't be a coincidence.
So it wasn't random. Yet it wasn't the effect of an arcane spell. Obtained evidence. Comatose knights. At least this one actually fits. Hey, it's the Grey Man from Danganronpa. Several knights from the King's Guard were found unconscious after the bodies were found. They have been unresponsive since the massacre, and due to a lack of magical traces, they are clearly not being affected by any kind of arcane spell. Commander White, you keep saying the perp instead of Steelwind, even though everyone else seems to think that she was responsible for this. Do you also suspect that she's being framed?
It just doesn't add up. If she did give herself Mage Blight, her actions wouldn't have been so deliberate.
And she's definitely not the type of person to go around murdering people.
Even if she was, she's led a lot of the Inquisition's investigations recently. She investigated plenty of homicides with us, and she knows exactly how we do things. Whoever did this got the job done, but they were sloppy about it. A bunch of witnesses saw her. She didn't even try to hide herself using her magic. So either she had Mage Blight, which doesn't match her behavior, or she did this intentionally and wanted to get caught. Neither scenario makes any damn sense.
Someone has to be framing her. That's the only reasonable explanation.
Honestly, I'm not so sure about that either.
What do you mean?
You saw her when we arrested her, right? You saw her when we arrested her, didn't you? She wanted us to lock her up. It's like she thought she was a danger to herself and others.
Right, that's the same impression I got as well.
If it weren't for the witnesses' statements, I'd be sure she gave herself Mage Blight. The strangest thing is that I've never seen her that scared before. Something really rattled her about what happened.
Did you follow up on what I said about Beatrice? I know she was in the room when Pierce and I fell unconscious. She has to be involved in this somehow.
Well, she's already in prison, so we already got ahead on that account. But when we asked her about what happened, she said that she couldn't remember anything.
That's such an obvious lie. She has to be hiding something.
Normally I'd agree with you, but she's not the only one with missing memories.
She
Steelwind also can't remember anything.
What? I just have to speak with her about that later. Anyways, what about Eris and the knight who was guarding her? Did they see anything?
Sorry, kid, but Eris Ilmater has been missing since everything went down.
What?
I wouldn't be too worried. A witness to the crime is missing.
A witness to the crime is missing and possibly hurt.
Look, kid, you may be a hotshot attorney, but I've been in this business a lot longer than you have. Sometimes when these things happen to civilians, they get spooked and run away. I've seen it a million times.
Eris was the daughter of a crime lord. I doubt she was in any rush to speak with law enforcement.
We don't have the resources to look for her, but I'm sure she'll turn up eventually.
Well, I suppose we can't do anything about that now.
Anyways, what about the knight guarding
Beatrice? Surely he didn't go missing as well.
That's the thing. The knight who was supposed to be watching her was one of the guards who went comatose. We found him in front of the prayer room, too.
Wait, did he follow Beatrice to the prayer room?
To make matters worse, that Frigga chick knows how to cast invisibility. So even if she was telling the truth, very few people would have actually seen her.
Evidence updated. Beatrice's actions. I saw Beatrice Frigga as I was losing consciousness. I only saw her for a brief moment, so it could have been an illusion. Regardless, that meant that she somehow entered the prayer room at 2:30 p.m. Cocaine. A knight was assigned to guard Beatrice and kill her if Maranoth attempted to escape. He was later found comatose in front of the prayer room. Eris Ilmater, who was also with Beatrice when she disappeared, has been missing ever since the massacre. Would you happen to have a recent version of her spell compendium?
Sure, we already have it on the record.
Obtained evidence. Beatrice's spell compendium. Beatrice Frigga's spell compendium. It contains the formula for the following spells: Familial Bond, Sleep, Mend Wounds, Send Message, Animate Corpse, Necrotic Blight, Shatter, Invisibility, Feign Death, and Illusory Disguise. This is going to be very... We already know this one. Mend Wounds, we already know Mend Wounds. Send Message, we know Send Message. Obtained evidence. Animate Corpse, yeah. Necrotic Blight. Shatter. School Evocation. Incantation. Kritia. Gesture none. Duration while concentrating. Concentration, yes. Channels the caster's magic into any physical object they are touching with their hands. If enough magic is channeled, the object may shatter or break. The intensity of the spell will exponentially increase while they are concentrating. However, channeling larger quantities of magic will slowly drain the caster's stamina and possibly cause mage blight. Visibility, invisibility. Obtained evidence. Feign Death, School Necromancy, Incantation, Falnorma, Gesture none, Duration while concentrating, Concentration yes. The caster must target a creature that's already unconscious. While they concentrate on this spell, the target will appear to be dead. The target creature will stop breathing and their heart will stop beating. However, the life energies of the spell will keep them alive for the duration. Obtained evidence, Illusory Disguise, we know this one. Right, I forgot how many spells she used during Lord Freyga's murder. It's a little difficult to take in. I still can't believe it. After everything he did, Ron Sanctus was just murdered.
I'm surprised to hear that from you. Didn't he basically get away with blowing up your hometown? The way I see it, he got what he deserved.
That still doesn't sit right with me. No matter who the victims might have been, no one deserves to die like that.
You're definitely a bigger man than I am.
Anyways, Von Sanctus's autopsy report says that he died of suffocation.
Do you think the murderer overpowered him and choked him with a rope or something?
That hardly sounds like something someone would do during a psychotic episode.
Yeah, the more info I collect, I think it might be onto something. But either way, the fire that the perp started in this room burnt his body. It didn't completely turn to ash, but there's not a lot left.
So that fire would have burnt away any evidence of the minor wounds he had.
Yeah, we're lucky we even discerned he was hit with an evocation spell.
Right, the autopsy report mentioned that too. But if a fire was started, is it possible that he died from smoke inhalation?
No, the divination spell we used always identifies smoke inhalation as death by poisoning, not death by suffocation.
I suppose that kind of makes sense. While we're at it, do you have records of each of the victims' spell compendiums? They might help us understand what each of the victims were doing during the attack.
Sure, knock yourselves out.
Pierce's spell compendium. Sybil's spell compendium. Coraline Sybil's spell compendium. It contains formulas for the following spells: Slow Fall, Foresight, Strike True, Detect Magic, Stone Skin, and Mend Wounds. Von Sanctus's spell compendium. Lord Von Sanctus. It contains the formulas for the following spells: Mage Blade, Force Cage, Send Message, Stone Skin, Mend Wounds, Familial Bond, Teleport, and Summon. Okay, we know Prestidigitation, Conjure Light, and Conjure Water, and Frost Wave. And First Cage. School Abjuration, Incantation, Forzare. Gesture, point, index finger. Duration, 1 hour. Concentration, no. For the duration, the caster casts a magical 10 by 10 by 10 foot cube around a target within 30 feet of them. The walls of this cube are impenetrable and can't be destroyed by anything, not even the spells that can normally dispel spell effects. Furthermore, any attempts to magically teleport into or out of the cube will fail. If there is more than one creature in the target's space, they will be pushed away from the center of the cube. Mage Blade, we know Mage Blade. This looks different. Fuck. I'll look at that later. Foresight, School Divination, Incantation, Forheim. What the fuck? Gesture. Form a triangle with both hands. That's... Duration, 24 hours. Concentration, no. The caster invokes the ultimate form of divination magic to see brief glimpses of the near future. While the spell is active, the caster is able to sense danger seconds before it actually happens. Strike True. School Divination. Incantation, Non-Optima. Gesture, make circle with fingers. Duration while concentrating. Concentration, yes. The caster increases their ability to predict the results of all their actions for the duration. This is useful for the purposes of aiming or doing other activities that rely on dexterity and skill. Detect Magic. School. Divination. Incantation. Repario Arcanum. Gesture, none. Repario Arcanum! While concentrating. Concentration, yes. While concentrating, the caster can see the normally invisible magical traces left by magic. Magical traces are created 2 times when a spell is cast. The first is created at the position of the caster when the spell is cast. The second is created when the spell effect resolves or dissipates. The caster can identify the school of magic of any trace by color. Evocation red, transmutation yellow, conjuration cyan, divination pink, abjuration yellow, necromancy purple, illusion green. Stone Skin, School, Transmutation, Incantation, Terprotec. Gesture, create an X with both arms. Duration 1 hour. Concentration, no. The caster creates a thick layer of stone around the body of a target within 30 feet. This stone layer will deflect and protect the target from any physical trauma. The stone layer can be slowly broken through continuous attacks, but as long as the caster concentrates on the spell, the stone layer will instantaneously repair itself. Teleport, School Conjuration, Incantation none, Gesture none, Duration instantaneous. Actually, I think we got... I'll read it anyways. Concentration, no. Allows the caster to teleport to any position with it. Yeah, no, we did. Okay. We know these two. Okay. Wow. That's a lot to work through.
Yup. This is what happens when a bunch of mages are caught in the middle of a murder. Honestly, you've been lucky until now.
Nevertheless, I'll need to look over each of these spells when they become relevant. I found everything I could relating to Von Sanctus's murder. Time to move somewhere else. I need a balcony. I'll go to the garden first. I was dreading having to face that statue again, but despite knowing better, I returned to the garden. It's staring into my soul. Then stop looking at it! The Crown Prince was sitting at a bench nearby. Several members of the King's Guard were standing at attention around him. His brow was furrowed. He didn't even seem to notice us until one of the knights stepped in our way. Oh, Mr. Cuthbert. And Miss McCoy, too. What are you still doing here? We're trying to investigate what happened. I see. Are you okay? Yes, I was just thinking how unfortunate this ordeal has been. I do hope Lady Steelman is taking this well. Right. She was his fiancée after all. We're trying to find out what exactly happened. Do you mind if we ask you some questions? I see. Well, I'll do whatever I can to help. What if I present my runestone again? Ah, your attorney's runestone. I was wondering when I'd be able to see it again. Wouldn't someone like you have one too? Oh, I have a runestone, but it's not an attorney's runestone. Okay, it's just that again. What if I search this again? What goes through the mind of such a tortured creature? What is with you in this statue? I don't know, but I can feel its emotions as if they were my own. It's an inanimate object, Tyrion! Nothing. Okay. Okay, alright, Aster. You said that you two were investigating the murders. Were you planning on defending Lady Steelman? If she'll have me. She may be a competent prosecutor, but I have far more experience defending clients. Unfortunately, I think that situation is more complicated than that. What do you mean? Several house leaders died today. We can't release this information to the public, not after the news of William Frega's death has already spread. In the course of 2 months, we've lost not one but 3 pillar heads. But the trial has to happen soon, or else the magical traces left will disappear. From what I've heard, we will be holding a trial, but it will be handled privately and internally. I'm sorry to say that you won't be permitted to serve in such a trial. Would you be able to pull some strings for us, Aster? I'm sorry, I'd like nothing more to give you the opportunity to represent her, but I clearly have a personal attachment to this case. If I try to tip this trial in her favor, it will only harm her chances. Even if I can't directly defend her, we can still investigate the crimes on her behalf. Yes, I would really appreciate that. If no evidence is found, perhaps we can exonerate Miss Steelman of the charges against her. After everything that's happened, I really need to know. Why were so many nobles gathered in one place anyways? All 4 of the Pillar families were present. I understand if you don't want to tell me, but this information could be vital in figuring out what really happened. The truth is that we all gathered to mourn the death of my father, King Olivier de Wivengard IX. Wait, the king is dead? Yes, we wanted to avoid releasing this information to the public, so close to the death of William Frege. My father has been ill for quite some time, so we were prepared for this. Or at least I thought I was. I also lost my mother when I was quite young, but it's still all a little hard to take in. I'm sorry. You have my condolences. Thank you. But if King Olivier is gone, that would make you... Yes, you currently stand for King Aster de Wivengard, the ruler of our kingdom. The words came out hollow. It sounded like he was mourning more than just his late father. No wonder so many nobles were gathered here. They came under the guise of paying their respects, but I'm sure they just wanted to get close to the new king. So, was the letter Pierre sent? Was that sent to Aster? Or was it supposed to be sent to Aster? If so, then did you send it to us? Ironically, I think only House Frege came to genuinely give their condolences. Speaking of the Fregas, I think you need to know. I think you need to know. I saw Beatrice before I was knocked out. I think she may have been the one who killed Pierce. Why would she be that? I'm sorry, I know she was your friend, but we already know she's not above committing murder. I see. I suppose if you're saying it, it must be so. But what possible reason would she have to be involved in something like this? I'm not sure yet, but I plan to find that out. By the way, where were you during the murders? I remember you left with Steelwind when Celeste and I arrived at the cathedral. Ah, yes. Steelwind and I left to speak with the High Speaker, Arceus, in his quarters. What was your meeting about? It was actually about our wedding. With my father's death, the Grand General demanded that we make our union official. Oh! I would congratulate you two, but considering the circumstances... I understand, and I appreciate your words nonetheless. Anyways, how long did this meeting last? I believe we spoke with him until 1:40 p.m., but Von Sanctus died at 2:05 p.m. That means that she began her rampage less than half an hour after that meeting. Was there anything off about her behavior? Now that you mention it, something about her demeanor changed. We were speaking of the wedding when she abruptly left. I asked her where she was going, but she ignored me. That sounds similar to what happened when Celeste fought her. There's no way she was affected by Mage Blight. Obtained evidence, marriage meeting. From 1:15 p.m. to 1:40 p.m., Aster D. Wyverngard and Arya Steelwind spoke with High Speaker Theon Arceus about their upcoming wedding. At 1:40 p.m., Steelwind abruptly left the meeting and didn't answer Aster when asked where she was going. I honestly didn't think much of it at the time. I'm quite used to her giving me the cold shoulder. Right. What happened after your meeting with High Speaker? Did you see Steelwind after that? Actually, I found myself caught up in something else entirely. At 2 p.m., I went to pay my respects to my father's coffin. But apparently, someone had set up a magical trap there. What? It was a glyph of contingency. Obtained evidence, glyph of contingency. School evocation, incantation, Contingent. Gesture, something of the contingent spell. Why is it like that? Duration, 24 hours. Concentration, no. When casting the spell, the caster must choose another spell they know. The caster casts that spell, but the contingent spell doesn't come into effect. Instead, it takes effect when a certain condition, specified by the caster upon casting the spell, is fulfilled. The contingent spell takes effect immediately when the condition is fulfilled. I have heard of that spell. It's like a trap you can set. You can infuse any spell into it. But it requires a contingent spell to place that trap. Which spell was it? It was for a force cage targeting me. Was the murderer trying to attack Aster too? I don't think so. They would have used a more lethal spell if they wanted to. From the sounds of it, Force Cage can't be dispelled. So Aster would have been trapped inside of it for that full hour. We think that someone used this as a distraction. Because of that trap, the Kingsguard consolidated most of their attention and forces in the nave. As a result, there were fewer people guarding Von Sanctus, Sybil, and Pierce. And the ones that were there all fell comatose. They can't tell us what happened to them. Obtained evidence, the trapped king. At 2 p.m., Aster D. Wyverngard went to pay his respects at his father's coffin. Why did I say cage? Unbeknownst to him, however, there was a glyph of contingency set to trap him inside a force cage. The trap triggered and Aster was trapped in that magical cage for its duration. This caused the Kingsguard to consolidate their forces at Aster's location. As a result, Lloyd Von Sanctus, Caroline Sybil, and Garrick Pierce were left with far fewer guards defending them. And yet another inexplicable event was added to the list. After everything I'd learned, I knew for certain that Steelwind wasn't afflicted with mage blight. Someone must be behind this. Anyways, he probably didn't witness much after he was trapped by that force cage. It was time to move somewhere else. We arrived at the west balcony of the cathedral. Hold on. Oh, where? Supposedly, this was where the murderer threw Sybil's body into the lake. Oh, hello there. As I inspected the area, I caught the attention of an old man nearby. So many old men in this game. From his garb, he appeared to be someone who worked at the cathedral. I don't believe we've met before. What are you doing here? I forgot the voice I gave him. Sorry for the intrusion. I'm Tyrion Cuthbert, and this is my bodyguard. We're investigating the murders on behalf of Prosecutor Steelwind. Tyrion Cuthbert. I have heard of you. He doesn't look nearly as criminal as I expected him to be. He probably hadn't heard anything good. But forgive my rudeness. I am Theon Arceus. I'm gonna say Arceus. Arceus, High Speaker of the Church of Bahamut. Theon Arceus. Occupation High Speaker. Age 81. Old man. The devout leader of the Church of Bahamut. I don't think I've met anyone who reveres the Scaled Lord as much as he does. So, you're the one who saw Steelwind here during the murders. Do you mind if we ask you some questions? I suppose there would be no harm in that. A runestone. It's my attorney's runestone. I recall the Duke of Carmos telling me about this device. Artificer is yet another gift granted to us by the Scaled Lord. But they only draw power from ley lines. It has nothing to do with Rothalion. All arcane magic is derived from the ancient dragons. To say otherwise is sacrilege. I am literally proof of the opposite. I am proof that that's wrong, but okay. This balcony provides a perfect view of Lake Galacrond. A lot of people probably came here when the Grand Cathedral is open to the public. There's some sort of debris on the ground. I picked up one of the pieces and rolled it around in my palm. It appeared to be some kind of gravel.
Arcanum.
There are traces of transmutation on this debris. That would imply that a spell specifically targeted or created whatever this came from. I doubt someone intentionally created these bits of gravel. It must have broken off something else. Obtained evidence, debris near the balcony. You found some bits of Earth-like debris near the West Ward balcony. They have traces of transmutation magic on them. This also happens to be where Theon Arceus saw Arya Steelwind dumping Coraline Sybil's body. We heard that you saw the prosecutor acting strangely here. Could you tell us more about what you saw? Did it look like she was afflicted with mage blight? I wouldn't go that far, but she was certainly acting strangely. How did you come across her? Well, I was on my way to the prayer room. I always recite prayers from the draconic texts around that time. He was heading to the prayer room? When I saw her, I first thought she was enjoying the view of the lake. I was about to greet her, but when I approached her, I saw that she was pushing something off the edge of the balcony. You must have seen her dumping Sybil's body. You're probably correct. I came to the same conclusion after they found that poor woman's body below us. But it feels wrong somehow. What is it? I only saw it for a second. Lady Sybil was wearing much brighter colors this morning. Whatever Lady Steelwind threw into the lake, it looked much darker. What does that mean? I'm sorry, I can't really explain it.
Perhaps I was just seeing things. My eyes aren't as good as they used to be after all. It could have been a trick of the light. Obtained evidence. Arceus' encounter. Theon Arceus was on his way to the prayer room to recite his prayers. On his way there, he spotted Arya Steelwind throwing something off of the west balcony. He wasn't able to see what she threw, but after Coraline Sybil's body was found in Lake Galakron, he assumed the object must have been Sybil's body. However, he could have sworn that he saw something darker, but he's still not sure.
Wait, if you saw Arya dumping Lady Sybil's body, she must have just murdered her. That means you must have been heading to where we were at that time.
Oh, were you praying there with Lord Pierce?
Not exactly.
What? That's not what the guards told me.
The guards? Do you mean the ones sitting watch outside the prayer room?
Yes, they told me that Pierce was praying with some acquaintances of his. They said the same thing to Lady Steelwind as well.
Wait, Steelwind was there too?
Yes, she appeared to be waiting for something. I didn't want to disturb them, so I went back to my quarters to pray there.
The High Speaker didn't see her fighting Celeste. She must have started her attack after he left, but why would she bother waiting? Either way, we can't exactly question those guards. Yeah, they're still comatose after the attack. Actually, the High Speaker's quarters aren't that far away from the prayer room. Didn't you hear the fight between Steelwind and my bodyguard?
Ah, it must have been because of the magical wards in my room.
Magical wards? Are they there for security reasons?
Not exactly. I actually suffer from chronic insomnia. Even the smallest sound will wake me up at night. Years ago, I had some mages enchant the walls so sound couldn't travel through them. I can't hear anything from outside the room once I shut my door.
That did sound awfully convenient, but I doubted that he'd lie about something so easily verifiable. Obtained evidence, soundproof room. Supposedly, Theon Arceus suffers from chronic insomnia and can be woken by even the smallest sound. As such, the walls of the High Speaker's quarters are completely soundproof once he closes his door. This should explain why Arceus didn't hear the fighting between Celeste McCoy and Arya Steelwind. I found everything I could here. It was time to move somewhere else. Is there anything else I can go to? Dungeon? Dungeon time? No? No. She attacked a member of the royal family and killed several nobles. What else is there to investigate? The laws are clear about what we must do. We should execute her immediately.
Lark, this situation is far too much of far too much import to make such rash decisions. We need to approach this calmly and carefully.
As we returned to the nave, I spotted the young prince stomping around as he argued with the nobleman I saw earlier. Now that I thought about it, he was the only person here I didn't recognize. Oh, it's you too! Your Highness. And I don't think we've been introduced. I see you're still as insolvent as ever. You stand before Sir Remus Virgile, Archduke and Royal Advisor to the Wyvern throne.
I believe he means advisor.
Remus Virgile. Occupation Royal Advisor. Age, who fucking knows. A mysterious lord who appears to be close to the royal family. Apparently, he's the royal advisor to the King of Wyverngard. I wonder why I've never heard of him before. Archduke? I didn't even know the Kingdom of Wyverngard had a title like that. Why hadn't I ever heard of him before?
Why are you two still here anyways?
I thought the cathedral was closed for the investigation. We're investigating what happened on behalf of Prosecutor Steelwind.
I see. Anyways, I have much to attend to. I'll be taking my leave.
Actually, since we have you here, we'd like to ask you some questions. Both of you. You should know your place, knave. Why are you showing this runestone to me, knave? It's my attorney's runestone. It proves that I'm a certified attorney. Just like a peasant to fawn over such a mundane piece of artificery. I want one. Is it gonna say it's thing class one? Okay.
Arcanum.
Oh, I thought there would have been one here. There's an altar at the end of the room. A religious figure would probably give a sermon here. Your Grace, where were you when the murders took place? Just what are you trying to insinuate?
Please, Alaric. There's no need for that. To answer your question, I was speaking with Lady Frega's familiar.
Tracker?
No. It was the demon who calls himself Maranath.
What?
He was actually the one who sent for me. According to him, he had some information that was of great import to me.
Did you make a contract with him?
Of course not! He gave me the information he had freely.
Why?
Demons are
supposedly always trying to trick humans into making deals with them.
Looking back, it must have been a distraction. What a fool I was. I knew he was playing with me, but I knew he was unable to lie. And the information he had was too important to ignore.
If you don't mind me asking, what was the information about?
I'm sorry, but I won't reveal what he told me. It would be a danger to everyone here. But rest assured, it has nothing to do with the massacre.
Your Grace, we've only just met. I can't exactly take your word for it.
I suppose that's fair. But believe me when I say that I plan to take this information to my grave.
That was ominous. But he was clearly intent on keeping their conversation a secret.
Anyways, several members of the King's Guard were watching us. They can verify my alibi.
How long did this conversation last?
I arrived to speak with him at 1:50 p.m. and I didn't leave until 3:10 p.m.
Obtained evidence. Virgile's alibi. The demon Maranath called Archduke Remus Virgile to meet with him at 1:50 p.m. He apparently had very important information that Virgile couldn't ignore. Virgile spoke with Maranath until 3:10 p.m. The members of the King's Guard guarding the demon can verify this. So he was accounted for during the time frame of the murders. But why would Maranath go to the trouble of distracting him in the first place? Whoever orchestrated this could use a force cage. Whoever orchestrated this also used force cage to trap Aster. Were they trying to distract the forces in the cathedral? Or were they trying to keep certain people out of the crossfire? Your Highness, we heard the prosecutor cast a spell on you when you saw the fire in the common room. Can you tell us more about what happened? I can't believe she attacked a member of the royal family! She was completely irresponsible with her magic! I understand your feelings about this, but we can't say for certain that she inflicted mage blight on herself. We don't even know if it was actually her. I saw her with my own eyes! Plenty of other people did too! Either way, where did this happen? It was on the path outside of the common room. I saw smoke coming from the building, and I saw Steven walking away from it. So this must have been after she murdered Von Sanctus. I have a feeling I already know the answer, but was she behaving erratically? No! She very deliberately cast a spell on me! Which once again implies that Mage Blight wasn't behind this. Do you know which spells she cast on you? I'm not sure. I've never been affected by a spell like that before.
From the magical traces on him, we know that it was a transmutation spell.
Transmutation spells manipulate and change physical matter. It's scary to think about what that might do to a human body. Are you sure he's okay?
Lord Asclepius inspected him, and he didn't appear to have any lasting injuries. We're hoping the spell's effects were only temporary. Can you describe what you felt while you were affected by it? That might help us identify which spell it was.
Well, I was extremely dazed, my ears were ringing. My vision was also partially blurred. It was as if my mind was in some sort of fog. Whenever I tried to speak, I couldn't even form words with my mouth. I could only make grunting sounds. I couldn't walk either, so I had to crawl on the floor.
I'm sorry you had to go through that. That must have been traumatic. But what kind of transmutation spell would do that to him? It had to be something that affected his senses. You already told us that she wasn't acting erratically, but was there anything off about her demeanor?
I only saw her for a moment, but she was definitely different than usual. She was completely emotionless. Yeah, that's exactly what she was like when I fought her too. She was like an arcane construct. Her movements were almost robotic.
Wait, are there any arcane constructs on the cathedral grounds? No, not for lack of trying on Lloyd's part. I speak and I have specifically forbidden the staff here from using them. It would have been really convenient if all of this was done using a construct. Anyways, was anyone else around when Steelwind cast that transmutation spell on you?
No, she moved away quickly after she incapacitated me. And even if someone was around, I don't think I could have seen them anyways.
Obtained evidence, Alaric's testimony. Alaric the Wyvern Guard saw Arya Steelwind exiting the common room. He saw that a fire had started there, but when he asked Steelwind what was going on, she cast a transmutation spell on him. This spell blurred his vision and put him in a daze. His ears were ringing, and he was unable to speak or walk properly. He could only move by crawling on the ground. Strangely, no one saw him while he was in this state. Commander White also said that he was surprised no one saw the prince until after the spell wore off. What happened to him? That covers Alaric's account of what happened, and we even got the Archduke's statement too. There's still one last person we need to speak to.
Arya!
If it were only Beatrice saying that, I'd probably doubt it. But if Steelwind also doesn't have any memories, it became a lot more credible. She definitely has the missing piece we need to put this together. Are you going to the dungeon to speak with her? I am. Wonderful. I'll be accompanying you. What? As the royal advisor, I have a vested interest in this investigation. While I trust Lucio to leave no stone unturned, I hear you have quite the talent for seeing what the crown cannot. I guess... Actually, if I present the runestone here... Okay.
Why are you staring at me? Certified attorney.
Okay. Just start again. Move. We arrived at the dungeon and found the prosecutor walking around her holding cell. Several papers with haphazardly scratched notes were scattered around it. She was pacing back and forth, head lowered in contemplation as she stared at one of them. She didn't even notice us until I knocked on the bars to her cell. Mr. Cuthbert, and your grace. Steelwind's eyes stayed on the Archduke before turning to us. How are you doing? As best as I can. As I can, all things considered. What brings you here? We're trying to investigate everything that happened. I see. I was wondering if you could answer some of our questions. Steelwind, I know your situation is pretty grim right now, but you know you can trust me. I know, but at this moment, I don't even know if I can trust myself. What? What do you think about this, Miss Steelwind? It's not a unique dialogue? No! No! I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I can't say much about that. The cell had a barred window. The bars were rusted. If a prisoner tried to escape, there would be a 3-story drop to freedom. Lit torches were hanging on the cell walls. It seemed a bit irresponsible to light a fire here, but prisoner safety was probably the last thing on the Inquisition's mind. There was a steel door that led into the cell. A magical mechanism covered by a steel box was placed over the lock.
Arcanum.
Okay. We heard that you didn't have any memories of what happened. Is that true? It is. It is. No matter how much I try, I can't recall anything. What is the last thing you remember? I believe I was leaving my meeting with the High Speaker and His Majesty. After the meeting, I was planning to return to the nave to speak with my father, but I suddenly felt something churning inside my stomach. But I thought some fresh air might help starve off the nausea, so I went to the balcony.
The one over Lake Golikrond.
Yes, that one. The last thing I remember was losing consciousness as I looked at the lake.
And did you cast any magic before this happened?
No, I didn't.
Are you sure you don't remember anything after this?
I don't. All I remember is waking up to the sound of someone sobbing. It was Celeste. It seemed that you just regained consciousness, Mr. Cuthbert.
Obtained evidence. Steelwind's testimony. Arya Steelwind has no memories of what happened after she left her meeting with Theon Arceus and Aster D. Wyverngard. After she left the meeting, she began heading to the nave to meet with her father. However, she suddenly felt nauseous and went to the westward balcony. She lost consciousness soon after. She later regained consciousness in the prayer room shortly after I did. She heard Celeste McCoy crying over me. She did not cast any magic before she fell unconscious. I feel like we've completely ruled out Mage Bite, so I doubt that's why you can't remember anything. Are there any spells that can specifically modify or destroy people's memories? It would certainly explain a lot of this. No, arcane spells can only affect the physical world. But throughout history, mages have attempted to develop spells that can affect the mind. There's no recorded history of any of them succeeding. You can't assume that arcane spells are the only type of magic that exists. I think you've observed it already. There are magical creatures in this world that don't use arcane magic. Isn't that right, Mr. Cuthbert?
I'm not sure what you're trying to imply.
If I learn that Illumina had any hand in this...
Your Grace, I am not an agent of the Theocracy. And even if what you're saying is true, I wasn't the one who manipulated Steelwind's memories. But I suppose you raise a good point. If something affected Steelwind's memory, it wasn't necessarily an arcane spell. In fact, it couldn't have been an arcane spell. It was definitely something else. You're probably right. Which proves that I'm responsible for the murders.
What?
You just said that you don't have any memories of what happened. Why are you so convinced that you're responsible for this? I told the Inquisition already. I saw Beatrice before I passed out. She's clearly involved in this somehow.
There's more to this than you realize, Mr. Cuthbert. For the past few months, the Inquisition and I have been investigating a string of seemingly unrelated murders. During each of those cases, we were able to apprehend the perpetrator without issue. But there was always something off about them during questioning. The murders were always abnormally gruesome and passionate. And each of the perpetrators said the same thing. They all said that they had no choice.
No choice.
Cases like this have been occurring throughout Wyverngard, and very little connects the perpetrators to each other. All except one thing, each of them acted as if someone had controlled them against their will.
They were probably just desperate. Most murderers try to make excuses after they're caught. They could even just be in complete denial. Orem said the same thing, but these cases were far too similar for me to ignore. I wondered if they were telling the truth. Perhaps each of these murders was committed by an unknown party. I didn't have any concrete evidence, but I knew I was getting closer to something. Steelwind, I don't mean to be rude, but this sounds completely insane. You don't even have any physical evidence to prove these murders are connected.
There's one piece of evidence, but it's hardly concrete. But it does tie each of these cases together.
She took out a small parchment from her pocket and showed it to me. It's a purple symbol.
Several of the people we arrested had an item with a symbol on it. None of them could remember where it came from, or even what it was. But they all somehow knew it was called the Purple Mark.
But there has to be an explanation for this. It could just be some esoteric superstition that we don't know about.
If that's true, then ask yourself one thing. Where did I get this parchment from?
You don't mean...
I found it in my pocket after I was properly confined. This symbol must be a calling card of some sort. For all I know, they could have controlled my body and forced me to draw this symbol myself. This massacre at the cathedral is related to it.
Okay, then, at that point, it's not your fault if somebody controlled you. Obtained evidence, the Purple Mark. It's some sort of string symbol. Arya Steelwind calls it the Purple Mark. She thinks that has some relation to her mind control conspiracy. Supposedly, this mark has been found at the scenes of several gruesome murders throughout Wyverngard. Arya felt she was getting close to the truth. When she regained consciousness after the massacre, she found a paper with a symbol in her pocket. I don't want to dismiss what you said, but... this definitely won't hold up in court.
Nor should it. If my mind has been compromised, I can't take the risk of leaving this dungeon. Otherwise, I could end up harming more people.
Well, you can't exactly spend the rest of your life in this dungeon. Wait, are you serious? What about Aster? Weren't you two supposed to be married soon? He's the king now, and you can't rule Wyverngard alongside him from a holding cell.
You're correct, but he's always been a remarkable person. He should have no problem finding another suitress. I must think of his well-being too.
Arya! No.
What?
Your plan is terrible. and I hate it. I'll just defend you or figure out what really happened.
Mr. Cuthbert, I'm not going to risk more lives. If I were to hurt His Majesty, I would never be able to. Please don't ask that of me.
Alright, it's an argument. Okay, I'm gonna save. Okay, I really don't like how, this is here for specifically the save, the most used one. I like this one though. It's cute. It's very cute. Anyways. Steel One was going to throw everything away, everything she cared about away. Throw away everything she cared about. Even if she was the one who did this, she's not the one who's responsible. I wouldn't let her resign herself to a fate like this. Steel One acts for the greater good of the kingdom. Regardless of the amount of suffering she must endure in doing so, she cares deeply for Aster and will do anything to protect him. However, she's still a rational person and will be receptive to logical arguments. Steelwind, are you seriously just going to throw your life away?
If it were necessary, I would give my life for this kingdom. If someone controlled my actions today, they can and will do so again. A villain controlled my mind. But as long as that possibility exists, I can't trust myself.
Deflect. That's not the issue here. If someone else is responsible for what happened, then we need to find out who they are. They're still out there. But that's assuming this person can continue to do so. We don't know how this mind control works. We can't just drop this without finding out what really happened. Do you even understand what you're saying? You will lose everything if you just let this happen. Okay, I think deflect. Okay, nope, that's not the issue here. Someone else is responsible for what happened, and we need to find out who they are. They're just really out there.
If that's true, you're fully capable of finding that out yourself. As I've said, I have no memories of what happened. I'm sure that you'll be able to find out what happened one day.
But you'll already have lost everything by then. But that's assuming this person can continue to do so. You said so yourself. You haven't found any evidence to prove your theory. We don't know how this mind control works. We don't even know what this magic is. We can't just drop this without finding out what really happened.
I suppose you're right. But I doubt there was any goal to this. The person responsible was just a sadistic killer. I've been investigating these murders for months. The person behind this is a sadistic individual who wanted to cause as much suffering as possible. There's no way to connect them to this.
What? Do I do the purple mark?
No.
That's not true, Steelwind. Whoever did this had very specific targets in mind. Both Prince Alaric and the High Speaker saw you when the murders were being committed. Not to mention, they set a trap for Aster.
What?
Let's assume that someone was controlling you. They wouldn't have left They wouldn't have left Alaric, Arceus, or Aster alive if they were trying to cause as much suffering as possible.
I suppose you have a point there. But even so, that hardly narrows things down. If someone were controlling me, they wouldn't need to enter the cathedral to use me. The perpetrator didn't need to enter the cathedral to commit the murders. Perhaps you're right, but the perpetrator only wanted to murder the 3 victims. There's plenty of people who might want to see those 3 dead.
Nope, okay. I'm fucking stupid, I guess. perpetrator didn't need... What? There's just so much fucking evidence here. Oh. Is it this? I don't know. Yeah. There's one thing you're overlooking. Before the murders started, someone trapped Aster within a force cage using Glyph of Contingency. But they didn't harm him. It was probably just a distraction. Even so, that gives us two very important clues. The first is whoever did this was capable of casting those two spells. This means that the perpetrator was either a mage or working with one. That's true. But the second clue is the most important one. Whoever set that trap for Aster, they did so within 24 hours of it triggering. The Grand Cathedral is closed to the public. This means that the perpetrator must have been someone who attended the funeral. So it was one of them. That narrows down our lists of suspects substantially. There's a chance we can identify who did this. And if they really did control your actions, we can find a way to prevent them from doing so again. Steelwind, you need to fight this. I can't. Why not? Fighting this will put people in danger. If we pursue an individual like this, they might retaliate even more than they already have. They wanted to remove me from my position. How will they react if I try to resist? They might hurt even more people to send a message. It's far too dangerous. Can't back down in the face of injustice. If we let the perpetrator get away with this, we're letting them know that their actions were unanswered. I doubt someone like that would go that far. They might decide to lie low and wait for things. No, not that. Whoever did this had a goal far bigger than you. And you have no guarantee it'll stop here. Who will they target next? Your father? The king? Whoever did this had a goal far bigger than you. And you have no guarantee that they'll stop here. 3 nobles died today, and 2 of them were near the top of the political hierarchy. And if they decide to go after more victims, who will they target next? Your father? The king? We need to catch them before they can do more harm. I know you're frightened about what might happen to the people close to you, but we can't let someone this dangerous get away with this. When you put it that way, I suppose I have no other choice, do I? Argument 1, because I'm the goat. I never realized it before, Mr. Cuthbert. What? You really have a bad habit of putting your nose into other people's business, don't you? Yeah, I suppose I do. But you're right. We can't let this go. I'll find a way to dispute this, somehow. Thank you, Mr. Cuthbert. I think we've known each other for long enough. You don't need to be so formal. I successfully persuaded Arya Steelwind. I know I agreed to fight this, but... What is it? You're the most qualified attorney in the nobility. You'll definitely be able to make a case for yourself. As you probably know, House Sybil controls the legislative and judicial branches of our kingdom. And they've nominated my father as the prosecutor for my trial. What? That's, like, the biggest conflict of interest I've ever heard of in my entire life. What the fuck? My theory of mind control is not substantiated by the evidence, and we can't blame another kingdom's magic because of that. Everyone believes that I overspent my magic and gave myself mage blight. As a result, they blame House Steelwind for the Minister of Justice's death. Now, the only way for him to redeem House Steelwind is to convict me and sentence me to death. But he's your father! There's no way he would... This isn't the first time something like this has happened. When I was a child, my mother accidentally overused her magic and induced mage blight within herself. And her resulting psychotic episode, she massacred an entire village of commoners. Scaled Lord. House Steelman almost lost everything after that. To redeem himself, my father personally oversaw my mother's trial and her execution.
That's what happened?
My father values his duty to wife and guard over everything else. Nothing matters more to him than that, not even his family. I'd like to have confidence in myself, but I don't know if I can face him like this.
Mr. Cuthbert, what is your stake in all of this?
What?
You hate the nobility, don't you? So why are you so intent on helping Miss Steelwind?
Because she's innocent. What else is there to say? Mr. Cuthbert? It doesn't matter if she's a noble or a commoner. She's being oppressed by the politics of our kingdom like all of my other clients.
Well said.
What?
I, Remus Virgile, hereby grant you the privilege to serve as Miss Steelwind's counsel. As the royal visor, I will be acting as the judge and arbiter at Miss Steelwind's trial. It is within my right to grant you such permissions.
I'll gladly accept. If Prosecutor Steelwind will have me. Of course. There's no one else I would trust more than this. I like this sprite. I like it. She's so cute. And please, you've done a lot for me already. You don't have to be so formal. Celeste has already taken to calling me by my first name. But since you'll be defending me, you'll probably need this. Obtained evidence, Aria's Spell Compendium. Aria's Steelwind's Spell Compendium. It contains the formulas for the following spells. Mend Wounds, Firebolt, Shape Liquid, Dispel Magic. Steelwind Strike? What? Detect Magic, Polymorph, and Hold Creature. Okay, Firebolt. School Evocation. Incantation, Bolto. Gesture, point index finger at the target. Duration, instant. Concentration, no. The caster launches a fiery projectile that's hot enough to inflict third-degree burns. Holy shit. This projectile can travel 120 feet without collision before its magic dissipates. Once it collides with something, it will set the object ablaze if it's flammable. Obtain evidence, hold creature, school evocation. Incantation, hodl. Gesture, point at the target. Duration while concentrating. Concentration, yes. The caster completely restricts the movement of the target. While concentrating on the spell, the target will be unable to move any part of their body. Even subtle movements, such as the gestures required to cast certain spells, are impossible. As a result, the target will also be unable to move their mouth to speak. Obtain evidence, Steelwind Strike. School Evocation. Incantation, Volnus. Gesture, point at the target. Duration, instant. Concentration, no. The caster strikes targets of their choice within a 40 feet radius with a slashing force. Each slash has the might and power of a mage blade. It can cut through thick metal armor. It's the ultimate spell of House Steelwind, and its spell formula is a closely guarded secret. Obtained evidence, Polymorph. School Transmutation. Incantation, Draw Melee. Gesture, point index finger at the target. Duration, 1 hour. Concentration, no. The caster transforms the target within 30 feet of them into an animal. The animal can be any creature that can fit within a 2x2x2 foot cube. For the duration, the target's senses and intellect will also be changed to match that of the animal they are transformed into. Dispel Magic. Abjuration. Incantation, Arborio. Gesture, point at target. Duration, instant. Concentration, no. Choose any magical effect within 120 feet. The spell that is creating that effect immediately ends, unless the targeted spell is immune to being dispelled. However, this only ends the spell's effects. It does not undo the effects of the spell. For example, dispelling a shape liquid on an affected liquid will only prevent the caster from further manipulating the target. It will not unfreeze the liquid or change its shape back to normal.
Then it's settled. You will hold the trial at my home, the city of Lawden.
Ladon?
Speak with Lucio. He knows the location well.
Before I could ask any more questions, the Archduke left without a word. He really had a bad habit of just walking away from conversations. Who is he? I didn't even know Archduke existed in Wyverngard. Today was the first time I met him as well. I'm just as confused as you are. He seems to be well acquainted with my father, though.
Well, I guess it doesn't matter.
He's just like any other judge. You've only encountered one judge, though, Tyrion. I had no idea what I was in for when we agreed to this. And what proceeded next would be unlike any trial I'd ever defended or prosecuted. But I would save Arya's future, no matter what it took. Regardless of what I'd have to risk to do so. And we will start this trial for the ages, I guess, next time. Bye-bye!